Hey, what's going on, Who That Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones, the host of the State of the Saints podcast. Thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. Hope everybody had a great holiday weekend. Merry Christmas. Hope you were surrounded by family, food, and fun. And, of course, we're going to be talking about the Saints Week 16 game. Of course, we didn't get a chance to talk about it on yesterday. Everybody was pretty much recuperating from the Christmas holiday, so we just kind of took a day off. So we're going to go ahead and talk about it today. And also, we're going to be talking about former Saints head coach Sean Payton name being linked to some of the openings that should be available this 2023 all season. But shouts out to everybody that's here right now. Shouts out to everybody in the chat. If you're listening at work, you're listening at the gym, wherever you are, wherever you may be, thank you so much. And we really do appreciate your time here. But let's go ahead and talk about Saints Week 16 game. It was a game that was extremely cold. It was 8 degrees at the start of the game, and the wind chill made it feel like minus 15. So it was the coldest game in New Orleans Saints history. At the beginning of the game, before it started, I was like one of those individuals that thought that maybe this would have been a game that the Saints wouldn't have won. I made that very clear on the prediction show, but the Saints did what they needed to do to get it done. Some very unconventional things took place, some creativity. They even got a turnover. We all know that those come few and far in between this season. Daniel Sorensen, a.k.a. Mr. Hardcore Holly. Almost had a pick six, man. So Daniel Sorensen wasn't even supposed to be in the game, got an interception. And that was huge for the New Orleans Saints. That made things much better. And also, the Saints were able to run the ball with Taysom Hill and Alvin Kamara. Probably should have done that earlier in the game, but shouts out to the Saints coaching staff with making the adjustments in order for them to be able to get the win. The Saints have a huge, and I mean huge, test coming up this weekend versus the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles had opportunity to win the NFC East this past weekend against the Dallas Cowboys, but they couldn't get it done. So this game needs to be a must-win for the Philadelphia Eagles. And the Philadelphia Eagles, even though they're going to be without Jalen Hurts more than likely once again, Gardner Minshew did enough in order for the Philadelphia Eagles to win the game versus the Cowboys. So, I mean, I can see them really paying attention and really focusing on trying to win this football game. The New Orleans Saints did not get any help this weekend. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers got the victory in overtime over the Arizona Cardinals with a Trace McSorley Arizona Cardinals. But I mean, you go with the teams. I mean, you play the teams that, you know, that's in front of you at that particular time, and you don't make any apologies for victories. Look, this is what we all expected, right? We knew how detrimental that loss to Tampa Bay was a couple weeks ago to the Saints playoff hopes. And now you're counting on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to lose out, right? They play the Carolina Panthers this coming week, and then they finish the season against the Atlanta Falcons. I'm going to say that again. They played the Carolina Panthers, and they finished the season versus the Atlanta Falcons. Now, let's just be real about this, folks. Let's keep it a buck. There is no way in HE double hockey sticks that the New Orleans Saints are making a playoff based on that scenario. We all know that the Atlanta Falcons hate the New Orleans Saints. They hate them. Okay, Carolina is going to try everything they possibly can to try to win. But Atlanta, who was already eliminated from playoff contention, if the Saints just so happen to beat the Eagles, right? They beat the Eagles and the Carolina Panthers beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I can honestly say, I can honestly see the Atlanta Falcons like phoning it in just so the Saints won't make the playoffs. Like, that's just what it is right here. That is why it was so important for the New Orleans Saints to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I don't feel bad about saying it. And people are like, man, well, these guys are professionals. These guys are pros. Yeah, they may be professionals and they may be pros, but man, we all know that these guys don't like each other. In any way that they can try to find a way to make things miserable for the opposition, they're going to do it. I mean, it's just that simple. So the way I look at it, I see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers rather than winning this weekend or they going to win next weekend. But the Saints ain't making it to the playoffs, right? I mean, it's already a tall task. You're going up against the best team in the NFC coming up this weekend, and you don't have a history of really having that much success against them in Philly, right? And for some apparent reason, why is it that the New Orleans Saints always seem to play Philadelphia in Philadelphia? Like, I only could think maybe a few times, maybe a playoff game, you know what I'm saying, where the Saints actually play Philadelphia. But for the most part, it always seems that the New Orleans Saints finds themselves out there playing in Philadelphia. But I digress. It's going to be tough for the New Orleans Saints. Now, let's go ahead and talk about some of the obvious things. The New Orleans Saints are looking better. Does this mean anything? Not to me. It doesn't mean anything at all, because I'll tell you why. As I was thinking about the Saints' 2-game winning streak, you know, I thought about how we felt about this team last year. I think some of you know where I'm going with this. When the Saints actually started playing better down the stretch, and it gave us this positivity. Like, man, you know, we get a little bit of this, we get a little bit of that, we get Jameis Winston back, man. We might go deep into the playoffs with this defense. I'm not buying it anymore. I'm serious. I'm not buying it. I don't care if they won 2 straight games. I don't care if the defense seems like it looks better. I don't care about any of that stuff, because I am not falling for it. I am going to continue to stand by what I feel. I feel like the Saints got a bunch of high character guys inside the locker room, and I just see a team that just does not want to quit because of the characters that they have in the locker room. Some people are trying to chunk this up to Dennis Allen and the way that he's coaching and way he inspiring guys. I'm not buying any of that stuff. We all know that back in 2016, Drew Brees was talking about possibly retiring. We heard him say this before because of the locker room culture that they had at that time. But then all of a sudden around 2017 on to the current, the Saints have been focusing on getting high character guys inside the locker room, getting leaders inside the locker room. That's the reason why you got guys like Cam Jordan. That's the reason why you got guys like Demario Davis. That's the reason why you got guys like Malcolm Jenkins and the Honey Badger and all these other guys. High character guys that don't know the definition of quit. And you combine the will of a young guy like Alontae Taylor, a guy who has amnesia like a guy like Paulson Adebo, no matter what plays he's giving up. And you get these young, high motor linebackers. What you have is a bunch of high character guys that just love to play football. And I just think that when you come out here and you're saying things like, well, the team didn't quit on them. Honestly, if the Saints had Nathaniel Hackett as their head coach, I really just feel like they probably wouldn't be quitting. They probably wouldn't quit because that's just the type of team they are. But this is one of those cases where people are going to look at Dennis Allen and give him props and say, oh, man, Dennis Allen got these guys playing hard. Man, let's just be real about this. Even when the Saints went on a 4-game losing streak last year, how many times did we just see the Saints get beat to sleep? We didn't see that. Even in those situations, even when they were limited, they still played hard. So what's the difference between last year and this year? They still play hard. It's two different coaches, but they still play hard. So I'm not buying that. I am going to say this. The Saints are going to have to find a way in this offseason to try to find guys that are going to help this team get over the hump. If you are going to double down on Dennis Allen, you cannot keep this same coaching staff the way that it is. You can't. It's rather you're going to have to get rid of Dennis Allen or you're going to have to get rid of Pete Carmichael. You cannot keep both of these guys here. It will make absolutely no sense. Now, you can go and talk to Pete Carmichael if you want him to save face. You can, he can easily just step away. Nobody would even think twice about it because the reality is the guy didn't want to be your offensive coordinator to begin with. You basically had to convince him to do that. The Saints have to find a way to try to come up with a different type of offense is they're going to keep Dennis Allen around as their head coach, and he's going to be the guy that's going to be out here facilitating the defense and putting the defense in positions to be successful. You cannot keep both of these guys. I don't care how many pictures the NewOrleansSaints.com put up of Dennis Allen with grit and fire in his eyes, with a scowl on his face. I don't care. I do not buy what Dennis Allen is selling. I don't care what anybody says. And this 2-game winning streak does absolutely nothing to me. It only just upsets me even more because I'm wondering to myself, what the heck took you so long to even get to this point? The fact that the Saints did not have a 2-game winning streak since 2020, and yet somebody is still trying to big up Dennis Allen like he's the second coming of Nuke Rodney or something like that, or talking about we need to give him props. I'm not giving him props for nothing. Look what his team is. The reason why we're even talking about playoffs is because everybody in this division stinks. If you looked at it from a regular conventional NFL season, nobody would be talking about the Saints at all. I mean, they're basically being talked about by default. So anybody that's out here trying to big up this dude, I don't understand how. There's no way mathematically the Saints can be above 500 by the end of the season, right? You only got so many games. So at best, they can go 8-9. You still are below 500. So I'm not sitting up here trying to, look, the bar has been set so low in this Saints organization, the fans, like we just basically just we're accepting table scraps right now. Anything that's a victory, a moral victory, or any type of victory or resembles a victory, then all of a sudden, like, we getting happy. But that's cool for you if that's how you roll. But as for me, I can't accept this. I'm not looking at mediocre quarterbacks because that's not the standard. I'm not looking at guys that can facilitate and maybe give you 2 or 3 third down conversions in a row, and I'm looking at him as my next quarterback. This team has a standard, and anybody that's out here just okay with anything below that standard, that means that they can feed you anything. I'm not buying that, man. What this team needs is a coach that can motivate guys, and they need a new way. They need a way to get away from the Drew Brees, to get away from the Sean Paytonisms. Find yourself somebody that's going to reinvent how we look at the New Orleans Saints, but in a good way. I'm tired of moral victories. Like, I'm supposed to sit up here and be happy that this team got 2 wins in a row for the first time in nearly 3 years. And we happy about that? No way. No freaking way, man. So I'm not just okay. Well, oh man, we got the win. No, that's not good enough for me, man. Because once upon a time, winning was a standard. Like, we was expecting to win. We would get upset at these shows because the Saints lost. Because we expected for that team to go out there and play the best they possibly can. But now it's like the wins are few and far in between. And I'm supposed to just sit up here and beat the drum and say, how great this team is? Heck no. This team needs to change, man. This team needs to find ways to find consistent success, not just winning one and hoping that we win one, because I have never, I'll say in a very long time, I have never watched a Saints game with so much, I guess what the words I'm looking for, but no invested interest. None. Like, seriously, I just watched the games because, of course, I like the team. But let's just say if they turn over the football or if they do something wrong, it don't even really affect me the way that it once would. You know what I'm saying? It's like, well, it is what it is. I don't want to feel like that. I don't want to have that is what it is type thing, right? I don't want to just be one of those guys that sit around and just, man, don't want to get overly excited because I'm waiting for the bottom to drop out. Like, man, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that. And I know you don't want to be that. So if we can get back to, a winning standard, I mean, in an NFC that's not very good, right? And you also have a changing of the guards coming along. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, he isn't what he used to be. Tom Brady ain't what he used to be. So basically what you have is a change in the guards. And the NFC is up for grabs right now. And if you have yourself a solid quarterback, got yourself a good defense, you can find yourself in a Super Bowl representing the NFC, because right now, like I said, there is no guy who is basically the face of the NFC. You got guys that's trying to establish themselves as the face of the NFC, but there isn't a guy who's a face. So it is up for grabs. And if a team can find themselves building through the draft and getting the right coach and getting the right coordinators in the building, then you can find yourself finding sustainable success for the next 3 to 4 years and be a top of the NFC, not just the division, but the entire NFC. So right now, while everybody is down, like while the entire NFC is down, it's probably best for the Saints to not recreate what they did this year, because if you go 6-9 next year, trust and believe, these other teams in this division probably going to have like 10 or 11 wins, and you're going to be in the basement. And I don't want to keep this going. I don't want to keep this going because, I want to make sure I want Dennis Allen to work, or I want this New Orleans Saints regime to work. Nah, man, you fix this thing before you find yourself really being behind the 8 ball and you're playing catch up, because you got a lot of these teams that's in this division that are building, and they're building through the draft, and they're young players. They made some plays, but eventually they're going to start figuring things out, and those plays are going to become more and more consistent, and you're going to find yourself wondering what the hell happened to my team. I told you Saints would win and how everybody was crazy thinking the Saints would lose. Well, I don't think anybody is crazy for thinking that the Saints will lose. I mean, look at the way that they've been playing. Look how trash they've been. Like that's what I don't understand. Like, our love and our allegiance to the team, that's cool. But how are anybody supposed to expect these guys to win? Besides the fact that you like, man, I like my team, I'm a root for my team. Like, that's cool. But let's not be in denial about this thing. They're not very good. This is not a good football team. I don't care, like, if, okay, I said they're going to win and they won. I mean, right now, to me, saying that the Saints going to win, that's basically like flipping a coin in the air and saying heads or tails. So it might be heads, it might be tails. It's 50-50. It's not a guarantee. And even if you do pick the Saints to win, you don't have that much conviction in your heart to say, man, they're going to win the game like how you did back then. Oh, man, this game ain't even going to be close. Oh, man, the Saints about to dominate this game. You don't have that type of confidence in the team. Man, if you saying that, then, I mean, I don't believe you. I don't. You can say they win, but like I said, that's, to me, that's equivalent to flipping a coin, heads or tails. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's not a person that's out here, maybe a few, but I'm just saying, for the most part, ain't nobody really believe wholeheartedly like you once did that the Saints are going to win the games that you select them to pick. Of course, there's a possibility they'll lose, but more than likely, it comes to a shock. It comes as a shock to you when they don't win. Well, back in the day, at least. Can't say I could buy into a team if DA is back next year, Don't trust him to hire a good OC that won't be conservative. Yeah, I mean, you got to find somebody that's going to be aggressive. And also you have to have a combination of aggression you got to be aggressive. That person has to be aggressive. I mean, DA, I mean, his lack of aggression and being super conservative. I mean, I just, man, it is just, I don't know. That careful football that they be playing at times. I mean, it just, man, like, go for it. Like, take a chance. They rarely ever take chances. They rarely ever take risk. You know, it's always like, I don't know, walking on eggshells. Like, how do you instill confidence in a team? Like, if it's 4th and 1 and and you have an opportunity, it's like 4 down territory and you punting the football. Like, how are you supposed to instill confidence in your team? The only thing that's saying is, like, you don't believe that your team can get a yard. You know what I mean? Even if that's the case, I put it like this. If you're in 4 down territory and it's 4th and 1 and you go for it and you get stopped, you don't deserve to get a first down. Simple as that. It's as simple as that. If you can't get 1 yard, then you don't deserve to score. You don't deserve the ball. It's that simple. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know. And even with the whole, fear thing, right? Like, there was be that as it may, that, well, I guess this justifies what I'm saying. So Cleveland ran a football, and I think they got down to, I don't know, maybe the 34 or 35-yard line, but it set up like 4th and 2 or 4th and 1 or something like that. But it was a penalty. And instead of DA declining it, he actually, accepted a penalty and he replayed the 3rd down. And that thing set him up like 3rd and 13. But guess what? The next play, they still got the first down. But all I'm saying is, okay, it's 4th down. They're still on their side of the field, right? And they still have to get 1 or 2 yards, right? So there were times where the Saints actually stopped these guys for no gain and a loss. But instead of you, like, trusting your defense to be able to do that, and regardless, like, think about this. It's 3rd and 13. They still got the first down. So if they would have went for it on 4th down and got it, it still would have equated to the same conclusion. So that shows me right there, like, you don't have trust in your team. If you're not going to decline that penalty and have a 4th and 1 or 4th and 2 and go for, you know what I'm saying, and trust your defense, then that tells you everything you need to know. And you don't think players look at that? Like, man, you know what I'm saying? He don't trust us. And they still ended up giving them boys the first down. Because they gained, 15 out of 13 yards they needed to get. So it just stuff like that. Like, coach, like, that conservative coaching, not coaching, like, trying to fire up your team. How many times, like, we seen, Sean Payton on a 4th and 1 or something like that. It ain't even got to be Drew Brees. It was times where they went for on 4th down when Teddy Bridgewater was there, when Trevor Siemian was there. Like, they went for it on 4th down. But they tried something, and that got the offense fired up. And it get guys inspired to be like, man, he trusting us to actually make this. But that conservative stuff, like, I ain't know. Like, one thing I will say about Dennis Allen, that man can hold on to a timeout. I was looking at the Saints. It was like 2 minutes left in the game. They had all 3 of their timeouts. I ain't never seen nothing like that. Like, and it's been like this in consecutive games. I want to say maybe against Tampa. They had like 3 timeouts. He didn't want to use them. This man will hold on to a timeout like I ain't never seen. It's amazing. It's amazing how he do it. But when you don't take risk and you don't take chances and you second guess yourself, and like, it's just, man, I just want to see some aggression. I just want to see, I don't know, I just want to see some confidence. Maybe I'm tripping, or maybe I'm just looking more into this than what it actually is, but I just want to see more. I'm more upset about the team now than was 10 weeks ago. DA going to start barely beating bad teams, and I know his chances of staying are growing by each meaningless W. Sad as F. Yeah, look, we, I kind of saw this coming, and like I say, I was on a look. I was out here. I don't care what anybody says. Like the way, look, I'm gonna say it, and I'm not gonna just say it like behind the scenes. When I'm talking to folks, man, I just want to get this dude up out of here. We have these conversations, but when we get in front of people, we want to act like we just don't feel that way. But that ain't me. Okay, I don't care what people think. I don't want to see this dude as the head coach, and whatever it takes, I was down with it. But it looks like it looked like they probably gonna end up bringing them back. They're gonna end up bringing them back because of the same thing I was talking about earlier. They're saying that, oh, he's playing hard for him, and I'm gonna continue to say this. I think that this team is just built differently. I think that these guys are very high character guys, and I just don't think they know the definition of quit. I just don't. I just think that these guys are just high character guys. Like, think about, I want to say this, like the Saints lose games, but how many times have you seen the New Orleans Saints just get absolutely blown off the field? Like, you rarely ever seen that. You like, even in these games, like they were fighting and scratching and clawing. That was last year too, when they went on that losing streak. They still was scratching and biting and clawing. So I think that it's just the guys. I am not giving this dude this credit. I believe that the Saints got high character guys on this football team, and they are saving DA's job based on their personalities. They are saving DA's job. It has absolutely nothing to do with the message. It has absolutely nothing to do with the game plan or these fake pictures that the photographers trying to put out to try to make us change our minds about Dennis Allen. And quite frankly, I'm going to just keep it a buck. They looking at shows like this. There's no way. There is no way I don't believe that somebody within these organizations aren't looking at shows like this. Us talking about how conservative he is, talking about how he just doesn't muster up any fire, how he doesn't inspire the fan base. And now all of a sudden, like a couple weeks later, when people start talking about his personality and his attitude, now all of a sudden, now we're seeing locker room post-game photos and stuff like that, and him with fire in his eyes and he pumping his fists and all that kind of stuff. They're like, man, miss me with that stuff. What you're trying to do is you're trying to make it transparent. You're trying to give us transparency and bump all that, because that stuff is fake, it's manufactured, okay? And then all of a sudden, we have a press conference and he was talking about, well, I'm not a yeller. I'm not a guy who's sitting up here. I don't, when I'm talking to my kids and, I'm not yelling at them. That's just not my personality. Now, all of a sudden, you're up here, doing locker room speeches and cussing. And like I said, and we having all these pictures and stuff like that. We got these photo ops and all that kind of stuff out here. Like, man, miss me with all that. Look, I'm not buying it. You may be able to buy it, but I'm not. Okay, I'm not buying it. This dude is not the guy who they're trying to portray him as. I'm not saying that he's a bad coach when it comes to defense. He's the best, or one of the best. I'll give him that. But if you're trying to tell me that Dennis Allen has went from Captain Conservative, Captain Cleanup, right? All these nicknames that we have come up with throughout the entire season, and now all of a sudden, like, now he's Mike Tice. Some of y'all know who Mike Tice is, or he's Brian Billick, or he's Bill Cowher now. Like, man, knock it off. Knock it off. All right. Like, y'all can try to do that, but it's still not going to change a thing. People still are going to have to be convinced in 2023 to spend their hard-earned money to watch a Dennis Allen-led football team. Now, you probably can get some people in if the Saints end up going on a streak, but if it continues to be win one, lose one, win one, lose one, guess what? Your bottom line is not going to be where you want it to be. I don't care what none of these other people saying. Like, keep on saying this stuff because you feel like it's going to get you in the New Orleans Saints good graces. I can care less. All right. If I have to lie to kick it, then I don't want to kick it. You have to convince Saints fans that they are worth the price of admission. Period. One thing you're not going to tell me about Okay, I've been saying this a lot when I've been talking about tickets and stuff. One thing you are not going to tell me about are my own people, my New Orleanians, my people who come to the Superdome. You ain't about to tell me that. I ain't been that far removed from the city of New Orleans that I don't know my folks. And I'm telling you, these people work hard, all right? You got some people up in here that's probably well established, and you know what I'm saying, they money ain't really an option for them. But for the most part, you got some hard working blue collar people out here that taking their hard earned money to pay for these tickets, right? And they have to make sacrifices in order to make that happen. And trust and believe they're making these sacrifices because life is tough. What they go through during the week is tough. At least I can go to the Superdome, lose my voice on a Sunday afternoon, and it's worth it because I know my team about to come out there with the dub. But what happens? What happens, folks, when you don't have that luxury anymore, right? Life already sucks. And I got to suck on Sunday too because my team losing and I got to come up here and watch them get beat to sleep up and down the field. No, sir. No, sir. And let me say you this. I see Gunner saying boycott coming, TJ. Look, I'm not advocating anybody to boycott anything. I'm not advocating that. Like, if you want to do that, fine. That's your choice. But all I'm saying is we may not be from St. Louis, but New Orleans definitely is a show me city, right? You got to show me, right? You got to show me. You got to convince me that this is worth my time. And it's not about, I'm not a real fan. You are a real fan. At the same time, man, you got just like any other thing, any other purchase that you get, any other investment that you invest in, you want that person to convince you that it's worth you investing in. And if it's not, then you're not going to do it. It's that simple. So all this stuff about, oh, man, well, people going to come, like, it ain't going to affect nothing. Man, please. Another year of boring conservative offense, freaking unreal. They're bringing this guy back. Speaking of the Eagles, they're coming to the Dome in 2023. Exactly. DA should not come back at all. He nearly let the trash Falcons come back. I'm sure players and coaches watch the shows and look at the comments too. Man, all I know is when the conversation started coming out about him being conservative, I'm talking Dennis Allen. When they start talking about him being conservative and him not really showing any emotion on the sidelines, that's when you start seeing the pictures of him in the locker room. That's when you start to see them posting the post-game, speeches and stuff like that in the locker room. That's when you really start seeing that stuff. And I'm just saying, like, I'm not an idiot, right? I know how PR works. I know how marketing works. I know how this stuff works. It's no different between your favorite politician or your favorite business. When somebody feels like the numbers are down, when they feel like something is lacking, they try to, hit the reset button and come out with these different ways to try to show people, oh, man, maybe it's not as bad as it seemed. Oh, he's not that type of guy that I thought he was. Man, miss me with that. That this response, but with the pictures that we seeing in the press conferences that we're seeing, all that stems from the criticism of him being conservative. There's not a human being that can make me believe otherwise. Because where was this before? Where was this before? Like, where was this before all this stuff came out? You ain't see it. You ain't see it because ain't nobody say that much about it. They even brought back the fall effect when the team wins games. I know, Brian, I'm not a dummy. Look up the 2023 schedule when you get a chance. Bro, I'm going to need the Dennis Allen banger on the way out today. Ooh-wee-oo. Hi, TJ. Mention you because number 2 is not an option, just like Saints fans. Referring to the Gregorian calendar 2023, you'll need to be able to convert radiation into energy. Says our favorite scientist, Elite Goods. Let's see. Yes, TJ. Boycott coming, TJ on a mission. Let's see. I feel you, TJ is trying to bet it all on Black bringing DA back next year as a coach. We as fans can dictate so much with the power or not use our dollars. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. It's about investing, right? So if the Saints bring him back, I just feel like you are. It's like this. You cannot be so arrogant, so full of yourself to actually believe that anything that you put out there on the field or anybody that you have representing this organization, everybody just going to be okay with it from the rip. That's just not going to happen. That is not going to happen. It's not. It's not. They are going to feel the economic pinch if this dude comes back at the beginning of the season. Like the numbers that they put up at the beginning of the season, like the first home game, right? When the Saints played Tampa, I guarantee that it will not be that this coming year. I will be shocked. And the only reason why it would be this way, if the ticket sales prices go up. That way you can match what you probably made in your first home game of the season. That's the only way you're going to do it. And also that, that's how people are going to justify themselves. You see, ain't nothing changed. They made the same amount of money, a little bit more than they made last year. Not putting it into context and taking it any way that they can get it. I'm not talking about that. Now, if the ticket sales go up, right, and you don't sell out, and they just say you got a good amount of people up in there, it's still going to equate to what you had last year in that game. And of course, like I said, that's what people are going to bring to the table. They're going to use that and they're going to try to use it to validate themselves, but they're not going to look at the whole entire picture. That's the only way I can see them making the amount of money or surpassing the amount of money that they made this past year. Period. But I don't believe it. Like, bro, you're going to have to show these folks. You're going to have to show them. You're going to have to show them, man. They're changing their sites to Pelicans game now. Jerry, hey, TJ, if the unthinkable, the impossible actually happens and the Saints were to win the division, do you think they're willing to make any noise at all in the playoffs? Look, do I feel like if the Saints make the playoff, they'll get ran off the field? No, I don't. I really don't believe that because I haven't seen them just get steamrolled, every single game, you know what I'm saying? Like normal teams that are in this predicament have been, right? Most of the time, the Saints basically shoot themselves in the foot throughout the game or they shoot themselves in the foot towards the end of the game. If Mark Ingram didn't run out of bounds or, if, they didn't code for that stupid jumbo package where you have Taysom Hill as the only receiver on the field with Kirk Merritt, then maybe we wouldn't be having this conversation, right? We'll be having a completely different conversation. The Saints probably would be first in the division and, it is what it is. But would they be able to make noise? Yeah, I do. I think that – do I think they will win on Wild Card Weekend? I don't know. Do I think that the game would be competitive? Yes. Do I feel like, your heart will be racing in the last 2 minutes of the game because the Saints got a chance to win? Of course. But, I mean, that's just wishful thinking right now. You need a lot of help in order for you to be able to get where you need to be. And we'll see. But I doubt it. I'm more curious what the Saints will do for coaching. I think we all are. Black Preacher Man sports fan says, Priest TJ, Allen is not the answer. His decision-making cost the team at least 5 games. He has no answer for Carmichael's inability to consistently call plays. Look, I just think that Pete Carmichael days are numbered. I feel like he is a guy who is just more like a Watson more so than a Sherlock Holmes. All right. He's a Robin more so of a Batman. I mean, he's a boo-boo more than a Yogi. He's a sidekick. He's a sidekick. I think he can do well and thrive, but I just think that he needs somebody in his ear. I don't think that he's a guy that can consistently give you what you want without somebody acting as a buffer or filter in order to help him succeed. I think that he can be a coordinator, but I think that you need a strong offensive-minded coach to go alongside him. Like if he was to get with Sean Payton again, collaboratively, collaborating together, I think that they will be successful. But I just think that when it comes for him being the final voice week in, week out, I don't think that he can consistently put up the numbers, consistently put up the offensive efficiency that you're looking for on a weekly basis. I can't see Pete Carmichael alone, making an offense have them scoring the most points in a season by a team. And some people will say, well, he did it before, but Sean Payton was here. And just like Dennis Allen, Sean Payton was calling them plays, right? Just because you have Pete Carmichael call, 2 or 3 plays and all that kind of stuff, or you say Pete Carmichael coached this game, trust and believe, if Pete Carmichael calls a play and Sean Payton don't like it, he gonna completely scratch that, and he's gonna overthrow it, and he's gonna call what he wants to call. But Pete Carmichael don't have that, and Dennis Allen just allows him to do his thing, because what Dennis is going to say, right? Dennis more focused on his defense. So that's the way I look at it. I mean, I think Pete Carmichael can be successful as offensive coordinator. I just think he needs an offensive-minded coach to go alongside him. I feel Tua should really consider his post-football life. He has so many serious injuries and so young. I think he should be wrapping it up. He has a family and life to live, and NFL just not helping. Well, Chosen, those concussions that he's been having has been very, very alarming to me. I'm pretty sure it's alarming to his family. Look, man, the man loves football, and when he's healthy, he plays at a relatively high level. And I feel bad for him because you got people at the beginning of the season, once again, taking it any way they want it, they can. At the beginning of the season, everybody just looked for this dude to fail. When the Miami Dolphins signed Tyreek Hill, the biggest question was, can Tua Tagovailoa get him the ball? He can't get him the ball. He ain't got enough arm strength. Then all of a sudden, for a while, before these injuries, Tua Tagovailoa was leading the league in completions. And Tyreek Hill was playing at an extremely high level, and he was getting the ball to not only Tyreek Hill, but Jalen Waddle, who is just as fast as Tyreek Hill is. But nobody said anything. They was quiet. Nobody was saying nothing. Nobody was saying anything about Tua. Nobody was apologizing for putting this dude in this box, questioning his arm strength, questioning his quarterback play, none of that stuff. Now all of a sudden, like, this dude's starting to have concussion issues, and it's obvious that it's affecting his play, and maybe it's causing him to have these turnovers because maybe he's seeing 2 and 3 people at one time, and they don't care. They don't care. See, I told you he wasn't a good quarterback. I told you that the Miami Dolphins weren't going to go nowhere because of him. I told you. That's what it's all about. It's all about validating themselves, and they don't care how they get it. A guy can die on the field, right? A guy can die on the field. They can revive him. He can, come back the following year, and they can still be talking about the dude suck. You know why? Because they're going to take it any way they can get it. Because these talking heads, the only thing they care about most is their reputation. The only thing that they care about is being right, feeding their own freaking ego. And they don't care how a guy is hurt. They don't care about a guy dealing with an injury that limits him. And sometimes, I got to keep it a buck, some of us are not smart enough to even understand what they're doing. We will take these talking points and go to our local barbershops. We'll call our homeboys on the phone. We'll be talking about it playing spades. We'll be talking about it playing Madden. And we're not even investigating it ourselves. We just taking these talking points and calling them our own. That's what I have a problem with when it comes to these guys. Tua Tagovailoa has been dealing with concussions. We've seen this dude get knocked out and have temporary paralysis on a Thursday night in front of the entire world. And yet we still critiquing this dude as if that didn't even matter. And we still trying to throw this dude away and label him as trash any way we can do it. But yes, I do agree with you, Chosen. I do agree with you. This dude, really just needs to think about that. I definitely feel like he does not need to play for the rest of the season. And honestly, depends on where he's at. I don't know if he should play next season. You know, these concussions, man, that's serious stuff right there. That's serious stuff. When we're talking about brain injuries, when we're talking about taking shots to the head, I mean, that is something really, really serious. And then you also have to take into account, I mean, the hip surgery that he had in college, the ankle injury, the screws that he had in his foot. I mean, like you said, the injuries are starting to pile up. So you don't want to just be around here relying on other people to take care of you, especially like in your 30s. Like, you still got your whole life to live. So that is something that I think he may need to consider. I agree with you on that. Black Preacher Man, sports fan, thank you very much for $5. Says, TJ, shouldn't the head coach have the answers for all aspects of the game, not just defense? Look, should they have all the answers? It depends, right? But here's the reality. All right. I think that we have to break this thing down. If you're the CEO of a company, all right, Black Preacher Man, if you're CEO of a company, right? You're at the top. Everybody looks at you for answers, right? But you're going to have a analytics guy, right? You're going to have that accountant, the guy that probably majored in mathematics, that can crunch up the numbers, that can put your company in a position to thrive analytically, right? Could you do what he's doing? You probably can understand the numbers, but you're not going to be able to crunch them the way that he can. Then you probably have guys who, let's just say, for example, you're at the top, but you're not a really good seller, right? So you have guys that's in the room that can talk guys into the room. He's probably going to be, you know what I'm saying, your talking guy, you know, the guy that probably can put the numbers together and let all of these foreign international companies that you're trying to merge with, trying to get them in the building. Then you're going to have the guys that's the stock market guys, right? You're going to have your stockbrokers, the ones that you invest, you know, the people that's investing in your company. These are going to be the guys that's going to help your company grow by, you know, helping you make better investments. Does that make you a terrible CEO that you don't know that much about the stock market, that you don't know that much about, you know, analytics, and you're not really a big talker like the guy that's going to be presenting your company to all these foreign people trying to, or the you know, national people to help your company grow? No, that doesn't mean anything. It just means that you need people around you in order to help you thrive. So a head coach can be good at one particular thing or a few things, but he's not going to be good at everything. A head coach, at least, if you're going to be good at one, focus on one side of the ball, you at least have to be able to put it all together, to bring it all together, to have an understanding about what is going on, to understand situational football, to understand like certain nuances, who's playing, the severity of the injury. You need to know these type of things because you're the one that's going to the podium and they're asking you these questions. And if you don't know it, you're going to sound crazy. You're going to be the one in the last 2 minutes if your team doesn't perform. You're going to be the one that's looking crazy because you're not understanding situational football. That's all I'm saying. You got to understand it to a certain extent. Do I expect Dennis Allen to know more things offensively and offensive concepts and all this kind of stuff as Pete Carmichael? You know, like, no, I don't. Now, if you want to talk about understanding those things in order for his defense to thrive, yeah, but he's not going to know the ins and outs of the offensive schemes and all that kind of stuff like Pete Carmichael does. But that doesn't mean that he's terrible. But you should have some level of understanding about things that a head coach needs to know. You at least have to have your head in the door, you know what I'm saying, looking in and be like, man, what's going on here? Okay, man, we're working on this concept right here. Okay, you know, keep it moving, you know, like, you know, like, but I don't expect that, man. Like, I just think that sometimes we have to peel back our way of thinking and put ourselves in that position. Like, how many times have we, you know what I'm saying, done a job and been at a job and we know how to do our job, and then all of a sudden, you know, they may change some things and they bring somebody else in that make things better. Or they bring a person in to teach you, or they just give that person a job, because they feel like that person needs to focus on this alone that allows you to do what you have to do. It's the same thing, man. So out of respect for them to know the ins and outs of everything, but you should have like I said, you should have your head in the door, at the least have your head in the door. Is there any way you can make the Dennis Allen remix song an actual video on your page? Appreciate it. Yeah, I think I can try to do that. I see what I can do. Keep doing what you're doing. Let's see. Sean Payton called plays and Pete didn't tell. And Pete didn't. That's why no one wanted Pete Carmichael on their coaching staff. I don't want to say that's exactly true, but it does affect the way other organizations look at you. Like, is it you, or is it the fact that who you are associated with? I think that's the same thing with Eric Bieniemy. I know people say that Eric Bieniemy is a great offensive mind, but it does not serve or help his cause that he is aligned with one of the best offensive play callers in NFL history, in Andy Reid. Like, when you hit your wagon to guys that are known as offensive gurus and offensive greats, it's kind of hard for teams to actually see your greatness, even though you may be great. I mean, look, everybody's seen a league of their own, right? I mean, you had Dottie, Dottie Kendricks, and then you had Kit, right? Kit was her little sister. Kit was the one with the dreams of being a baseball star. She was, she wanted to play. The guy didn't even want her. He wanted Dottie, right? And Dottie became the face of women's baseball. But Kit was always living in the shadow. Kit was good in her own right, but Dottie was the flashy guy, one, right? She was the flashy. She was the one that was catching passes with the split, catching the pass out the dugout. She was the one that was generating excitement, right? It wasn't until Kit actually got traded to the team, another team, and they played in the World Series, and she actually ended up winning over Dottie, that she started to get the attention that she just so seek. What happened? She had to leave away from her sister in order for people to see her greatness. Same way with guys like, Pete Carmichael or Eric Bieniemy. I think that they need to remove themselves for people to see their greatness. But when you look at a guy like Pete Carmichael, you're not really seeing that greatness. You're seeing, like, every now and then, he might be in his bag a little bit and he might call a good game, and you around the third quarter, and you're like, man, Pete Carmichael, man, he's doing pretty good today. He played pretty well. Then in the next game, I mean, you're wondering what the heck going on. You see Rashid Shaheed on the jet sweep, and then you don't see him no more. You see Taysom Hill drag about 6-7 dudes down the field, and then you don't see him no more until about the fourth quarter when things really getting out of hand. Or, Chris Olave or something like that, catching passes left and right, and then all of a sudden, like, here you come with a triple reverse somewhere out your behind. Like, he's not having a good go at it. But if a guy is supposed to be pretty good at calling plays, once again, it does not help his cause if he is hitched on to a guy who is known as an offensive genius. I mean, no matter how great you are, people are still going to be looking at you, as if, man, now you're this good, you're this good because you have this person, I mean, Kid, she was winning because Dottie was assistant and Dottie was the playmaker, right? Kid had to leave, and Kid runs over her sister, to get the home plate and wins the World Series, and she gets the attention. So it shows you that, man, she can play, right? She can do her thing. She don't need her sister, right? She can stand on her own. So that's just the way that it is, If I can just use that example, which was a good move. I mean, that's a classic, by the way. Everybody know that. Yeah, he just looked awful last game, but then I saw he's on concussion protocol again. I'm gonna say this though, David. Why are we thinking about this? We really need to look at the Miami Dolphins, because for the last year and some change, this organization has been doing some really, really suspect stuff. And I think we all know what I'm talking about here. So it's just amazing to me how some of these practices are going on with these teams and nobody's saying anything. But let this what happened with the New Orleans Saints. Let it what happened with the New Orleans Saints. All of a sudden, everybody and their mom would be coming out the trees trying to find the Saints, take draft picks. When healthy, can be said about a lot of guys. That's part of the package. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it can be said about a lot of guys, but at the same time, why aren't we saying this about guys? Why aren't we? You know, like, why aren't we? Why is, like, even with that, Brandon, why is that even a statement needs to be had? Like, like, come on, man. If you sprain your ankle or something like that and you laying down and you wake up in the morning, you know what I'm saying, you're going to be limping around. You know what I'm saying? Like, of course, and somebody tell you, okay, man, your house on fire. Run, 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 run. You know what I'm saying? Like, you ain't going to be able to shoot out the house you the way that you once did if both of your ankles was intact. You know, like, and one of them wasn't swollen to the size of a grapefruit. I mean, there are limitations that these dudes have. And like I said, people will take it any way they can. People will take it any way they can. If they had a hot take on a certain player, that player starts to, like, you know, go against the take that they had. And let's just say, for example, they get injured, they get hurt, and they just start getting limited. See, I told you. I knew it. It was just a matter of time. Like, they're going to take it any way they can. They ain't taking it any way they can, man. So, I don't know. I'm not on it. Like, I think you need to look at the entire picture. If I have a take on a guy and he's not good, and, you know, all of a sudden he start playing well, I'm not going to sit up here and be like, man, well, you this, that. Like, I'll give you an example. Like Jalen Hurts. My take on Jalen Hurts, and I will continue to say this, and I don't care how bad it makes me look by saying this right now. I said that I felt like Jalen Hurts probably was going to get benched by the end of the season. This is why I said at the beginning of the season. But I was wrong. I was wrong. Not only was I wrong, I was terribly wrong. Not this dude, like, could possibly be league MVP. It happens, man. It happens. You say certain things. Sometimes you might get it right. Sometimes you may not, right? But it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that you don't know what you're talking about. There's no difference between you going buy a lottery ticket and you get these numbers and they call them out and you don't get them, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, it is what it is. That's just the way that it goes. I just think that these talking heads, they care so much about trying to be right, and they feel like their credibility is just in line with every take that they have, but I mean, I guess they're concerned about people getting on social media. Man, he don't know what he's talking about. He don't know what he's talking about. Well, I'm the one on TV, man. I'm the one on TV. So that, I mean, you're on TV for something. You know, I don't think that you have to just, you know, just throw salt on a guy, pour water on a drowning man, so to speak, because you want to be right. It's obvious that something is wrong with this dude. I agree, TJ. That's the point of having coordinators, in my opinion. Yes, the head coach is the overseer, but you have people in place to run these operations and assist. Yeah, I mean, you got different type of coaches. You got coaches that call offense, you got coaches that call defense, and then you got coaches that just facilitate. And they got an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator, and they just kind of keep those guys in line. You know, like, man, what you got for us today? And if they feel like it's necessary to intervene, they do so. LOL 104.5 ESPN Radio YouTube channel asks us if we were a bot or a person. We responded on a +5D level and then blocked. Well, yeah, I mean, if people didn't really know you elite goods like how we know you here, they probably would think you're a bot. You know, they probably would, but we know that's not true. What about Ronald Curry? I thought he was going to be the offensive coordinator. Pete Carmichael never wanted the job at first. I don't know. I don't know if they might roll with Ronald Curry or not, but to me, I think that you need to find somebody outside of the organization. I think you need to find somebody that's out there, right? That's out there, that maybe on somebody's squad right now as an assistant offensive coordinator, or a guy, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, there's I don't know, like somebody that maybe on the Chiefs or on the Chiefs payroll, or somebody, you know, Philly or something like that, you know, like the Philadelphia Eagles coordinator, somebody of that magnitude. But You need to find somebody, or even somebody that's not in the league right now, like Frank Wright. So I'll take Frank Wright right now. I'll take, I take, one of these other guys, that's an assistant offensive coordinator that teams are finding ways, like a guy like, Ken Dorsey or Joe Brady or one of those other guys. But I'm pretty sure like a guy like Ken Dorsey, the next job he's going to get probably going to be a head coach. But then the Saints offered Pete more money and he came back. I feel like this, man. This guy's been around your organization for 16 years, just as long as Sean Payton was there. And if you got to talk this dude into being a offensive coordinator, that tells me everything I need to know, right? There would be people that would be dying to be offensive coordinator for this team. I ain't feel like you have to circle back around. I just think that the Saints sometimes they get afraid of stepping outside the box. They want to just go with the norm. And obviously their roster reflects that. Their coaching staff reflects that. They just want to have business as usual, and have the same people that was around Sean Payton be around here. But I hope that this season taught them that there's only one Sean Payton, and anybody like him, it's kind of hard to find. You're not going to just replace Sean Payton with somebody within the organization. You're going to have to think outside the box. But speaking of which, before I get to the next comment, let's go ahead and talk about Sean Payton since we mentioned him. His name has been linked to a few jobs. One was the Denver Broncos job, and of course the Indianapolis Colts. This came from a fan that made a tweet that said that maybe Sean Payton needs to come to Indianapolis, and Sean Payton liked the tweet. Now, as of right now, the Indianapolis Colts, if the season ended today, they'll have the 6th pick in the draft, which is pretty doggone good. And we all know that the New Orleans Saints still have the rights to Sean Payton. We've talked about this on several occasions over and over and over again. And everything looks like as if Dennis Allen is going to be coming back to the New Orleans Saints, especially since we've seen the bromance inside of the locker room between he and talking Dennis Allen and Mickey Loomis, the general manager of the New Orleans Saints. So, and this pretty much is a clear indication by many that, it don't seem like he's having any issues with Dennis Allen. And it looks like it's pretty obvious that he's coming back. So the best thing that you can do is try to get yourself some draft capital for Sean Payton. Now, if Sean Payton does go to the Indianapolis Colts, it might end up being a really good thing for the New Orleans Saints because there's a possibility they can still be picking in the top 10 of the NFL draft. We know that the Saints don't have a first-round pick. They gave that to the Philadelphia Eagles. And right now, I think the Saints will be picking 10th in the draft, if I'm not mistaken, 9th or 10th, one or the other. But anyway, if Sean Payton was to go somewhere, I would want him to go to the AFC. The AFC, that means that you wouldn't have to play him as often. And then on top of that, I just feel like looking at the Chargers, as they're going to be a playoff team. So how can you get rid of the coach if that's the case? So I don't think he's going to go anywhere. The Arizona Cardinals, I can see him being there as well. There's some reports that saying that Cliff Kingsbury is thinking about stepping down at the end of the season. I don't think he's really going to step down. I think it's more so about saving face and him to probably go back to the college ranks where he probably will thrive for the duration of his coaching life. But the teams that I'm looking at now, if he is linked to the Indianapolis Colts, are the Colts. Look, I'm not looking at the whole Denver Broncos thing. I know Nathaniel Hackett was fired after a 4-11 start on yesterday. If you're watching this on a Tuesday, but I look at the coach. The Colts are a good football team. I just think that they need the right coach. They got a good defense. They probably just need a few more pieces there. They got a good running back in Jonathan Taylor. We know that Sean Payton will be able to do some things with Jonathan Taylor. The only thing I can see them needing is a quarterback, somebody that's going to be able to pull the trigger in order to make things go. And we all know that Sean Payton really does not care for a young rookie quarterback. So I can see a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo going to the Indianapolis Colts, being able to facilitate the offense that Sean Payton wants to put together, and them basically building a team around guys like Jonathan Taylor, guys like Michael Pittman Jr., guys like that, and maybe put some more offensive weapons out there in order for them to thrive. So if he can do that, and I'm pretty sure Jim Irsay, as we see, is willing to do anything it takes, including look like an absolute buffoon by selecting a guy like Jeff Saturday, who was on ESPN, wasn't even coaching at all, to be an interim coach, just so he can hang out with him and go out with him on Saturday night before a game. That goes to show you that the guy's willing to do anything it takes. So I wouldn't feel like that's out of the realm of possibility that Sean Payton ends up in Indianapolis. And honestly, if he does come back to coaching and he's not coaching the Saints, probably be the best case scenario for him, right? I feel like all teams will win. It is all about both teams winning, Saints and whoever gets the services of Sean Payton, right? If Sean Payton comes back, they got to give up that 6th pick. And honestly, that 6th pick can end up being CJ Stroud. That pick can end up being Will Levis. That pick could end up being the future of your franchise, right? If you play your cards right. So I don't have any problem with that. If Sean Payton was to go to the Indianapolis Colts, I think that would be a good spot for him. And I know Jim Irsay seems like he's kind of a weird cat. I understand that, but one thing you can say, I mean, he's had Tony Dungy. He kept him around. Chuck Pagano, he kept them around for a couple of years. So it's not like the Indianapolis Colts are just a train wreck of an organization. Even with Jim Irsay, I still think that Jim Irsay and Sean Payton can coexist. I really feel that way. So if they can find a way to get. Sorry about that, folks. If you can find a way to get him to Indianapolis, I think that it would be great. I think it'll be really, really good. TJ, quick question. Why people love Eric Bieniemy so much? Don't get me wrong. I want a black man to get a head coaching job. But don't you think he would have got a job if he was that good of a coach? Good point. Good point. That is, Sydney, that is a conversation that needs to be had, but I think it's a conversation that people don't want to have because some people just automatically assume this has a lot to do with, racism or the fact that Eric Bieniemy is kind of a different cat. Like he's not one of those people that's going to be on some yes sir, no sir type stuff. Like he is a guy that's an in your face type guy. He's a guy that demands very much of you and he doesn't mind expressing himself. And some organizations feel like it's probably going to be pretty tough to have that type of coaching style leading grown men, right? I just don't know. Like, you had like Shady McCoy, talking about him, saying, one of the reasons why he don't have a coaching job because he don't know what he's doing. I don't believe that. But I have heard things about his personality that they feel like would not, that will clash with pros. I don't know. I think that, he can coach. I think that, he would put the team in place to be successful, but I think he'll end up getting a coaching job one day. But I mean, honestly, when he does get a coaching job, he's going to have a lot of pressure on him because he has, for the last 3 years, he has been the poster boy of what prejudice in head coaching, right? Why doesn't Eric Bieniemy got a job? Why doesn't Eric Bieniemy got a job, right? And if he goes out there and it doesn't work out, it's going to be like, well, you see, that's the reason why he didn't get a job. All Saints reporters say he's coming back, so we just stuck. Yeah, I think that's pretty much the writing on the wall, man. I think it's pretty much the writing on the wall. I believe what they're saying, but what I won't co-sign is the fact that, they playing for DA hard. No, man, I just think that that's just who these guys are. To me, they just high character guys. And when you got high character guys, they don't know the definition of quit. And I just think that Dennis Allen is just a recipient of that. All right. I don't think he has enough rah-rah in his body to elicit that type of spark if those guys didn't already have a spark inside of them already to be, successful and try to do whatever they can to win. Bill Belichick is probably still mad at Tom about Jimmy G being traded. I know he is. And he's probably mad at Robert Kraft too. I want to say Arthur Kraft. Robert Kraft too. Jim Irsay hasn't been right since Tony Dungy left. Yeah, but Tony Dungy was a really good coach, and you combine that with Peyton Manning. Jim Irsay is basically just going through the motions how we went through the motions, how we are going through the motions. You go from being a pretty successful team to not making a playoff, picking in the top 10. I understand that. You go from Peyton Manning, who was supposed to be a generational talent at quarterback, which he ended up being, and then you end up losing Peyton Manning, and you replace him with a guy that would have been, the guy that would have been the next face of the NFL and Andrew Luck, and he ends up retiring prematurely. So I can understand how he feels. Like, you go from doing all that winning and going to the AFC Championship and being a premier game with, your quarterback versus Tom Brady, and all of a sudden, like, you're in the doghouse and giving up 33-point leads and team losing and the biggest loss in NFL history. It's rough. I don't blame him. Can you? I lose my mind too. The Saints front office only responds to the 3-win season trigger. That's when they make coaching changes. Yeah, but I don't know. Like I said, it's going to be a hard sell for the fans of the Who Dat Nation. Like, you're going to have to do some winning. You're going to have to do some winning in order for people to buy into what you are selling. All right, we got 180 people watching this right now. I ask that you hit the like button if you have not already. Please hit the like button. Let me see. I think that's pretty much it. Let me see if I can find these other ones. You own it though, TJ. A lot of these jokers out here spin it and scapegoat when they're wrong. Well, look, I'm not doing that. Sometimes I'm gonna be wrong. That's just the way that it goes, man. Like, I don't think you have to wear your emotions on your sleeve like that. That's just not the way that it goes. You can't be ego driven. All right, you can't. You gotta be able to, just like, I feel like this. Like they said, apology should be as loud as the disrespect. So, just like I was mentioning early in the season, like, we all was talking and laughing and making fun of Cesar Ruiz and talking about he trash and talking about you slipping and sliding all over the place. Like, that's why I said, if I'm man enough to say all these things about this dude and question his ability to be able to develop as a pro, I should be able to give this man his respect and eat crow and because of what I said. It's only right. Like, we can't. My biggest issue is when people throw the brick and hide their hand. That's what I don't like. That's the type of stuff I don't have respect for. And honestly, I won't say I don't have respect for individuals that don't stay true to themselves, but in a way I don't, right? I'm just not a go along, get along guy. I'm just not. Like, if it's worth me speaking up for, like, I'm not. Look, one thing you ain't about to catch me doing. You ain't about to see me speaking up on something because I feel like it's going to help my bottom line, or, I ain't going to never be able to interview or talk to that person no more. So what? I have enough confidence in myself to believe that regardless to who shows up on this show or, whatever happens involved with the State of Saints podcast, we'll be all right. Like, seriously, I didn't do this show so I can interview a whole bunch of people, right? I do this show because I love it. And I ain't trying to shortchange anybody. And I feel like if anybody just trying to, just go along to get along to elevate their brand, that's cool. But it's only a matter of time before people just realize that you fake, phony, and they ain't gonna want to rock with you anymore anyway, right? You might lose people because they're gonna feel like you're trying to alienate them. So I'm not gonna do that. Like, if it's worth me talking about it, if it's worth me saying, I'm gonna say it. But I'm not just about to like just go along to get along. Like, that's just not me. And I'm not talking about anybody in particular. I'm just telling you how I feel. Like, we built this show for five seasons. We've been doing the State of the Saints podcast. We almost at 10,000 subs here on the State of the Saints podcast. We ain't doing it by lying. We ain't doing it by all this fake fronting. We ain't doing this by being a parody. We ain't doing this by trying to be the next Skip Bayless or Stephen A. Smith or all that stuff. We just have conversations, and I'm okay with that. All right, but I don't know, man. Like, I just feel like if that's the way that you want to roll, I just feel like you shouldn't do podcasts, or you shouldn't, you know what I'm saying? You shouldn't give your opinion about anything, because if you can be wavered if you can be wavered just like that, or just for $1, or who gonna show up? Like, I don't think, you ain't being true to yourself, and you ain't being true to the people that's helping you build whatever the heck you trying to build. The Saints should take notice at Denver, how they fired their head coach after 1 year. They need to swallow their pride and admit when they made a mistake. But of course, Saints play as late won't help. Yep, but I will say this: when you got guys fighting on the sidelines, when you got guys getting all up in each other's face and stuff like that, I mean, it is pretty much an implosion. So you don't want that type of message to be out there. So even though the Saints have not been successful the way that we want them to be successful, we ain't see that today. Like, we ain't seeing guys arguing on the sideline. We ain't seeing guys getting Dennis Allen face. We ain't seeing them getting Chris Richard face. We ain't seeing any of these things, right? So in that regard, if you're not seeing stuff like that, that helps them as well. Sorry, TJ, my bad. Let me hit that like button. Well, my dog, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate it. Let's see. I live in Philly, and it's going to be a long week and Sunday for y'all boys. For your boy. Oh, for your boy. Yeah, it probably will be. But hey, man, I mean, we'll see. Tim, I'm sure you heard about J.J. Watt retiring after this. Your thoughts on his career? J.J. Watt, one of the best. Well, he's the best defensive end of this generation. I will say that. Like, the dude was basically a dominant force before all these injuries came down. He was really good, man. I mean, 7-time All-Pro, multi-time Pro Bowler, Walter Payton Man of the Year. I mean, the accolades speak for itself. I mean, J.J. Watt is a guy that I watched ever since he was at the University of Wisconsin, and I seen his career from start to finish. And it was no denying that he was the best defensive player on the field every time that he was out there, and he made plays. I mean, he caught interceptions, he returned them for touchdowns, he forced fumbles, he got, double-digit sacks constantly. And I mean, I think we all can remember that classic game where, no disrespect, but I mean, he destroyed Zach Strief. He was working Zach Strief in that game. The classic, man, I don't want to hit Drew, I like Drew comment that was made when he was mic'd up. But yeah, man, J.J. Watt was an incredible talent, and he had some injuries throughout his career. He always bust his tail. I mean, the classic picture of blood running, down his face. I think when he broke his nose, I mean, he was still out there playing and battling. Tough guy, and definitely gonna be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, no doubt about that. TJ, sure, the Eagles have C.J. Gardner-Johnson, but he got hardcore Holly. You heard me? Well, look, C.J. Gardner-Johnson may not even play in this game. He didn't play in the game versus the Cowboys, and he's still dealing with an injury, so he may not even play in this game. But, as far as, with the Saints, I mean, look, dude wasn't even supposed to be on the field. I'm talking Daniel Sorensen. AKA Hardcore Holly. Y'all know what it is, man. And if you don't believe it, man, just look up Daniel Sorensen picture and then put it next to Hardcore Holly and tell me that dude him and Hardcore don't look alike. I'm not talking about Hardcore Jerry Poor. I'm talking about Hardcore Holly. Let's see. Can't say that I do. Met Dr. Umar though. Okay, Dr. Umar Johnson. I am a natural. I am neutral towards Carolina, but hate the Falcons and the Bucks. Like, I ain't got no problem. I have no problem with I ain't no problem with the Carolina Panthers. I'm gonna be honest with y'all, man. I meet Carolina Panther fans all the time. I ain't had no problem with them. Like, we'll crack jokes. And one of the nicest human beings that I know. Shouts out to my guy Mike Ricks. If you follow NFC South versus NFL, one of the nicest human beings you ever gonna meet in your entire life. Family man, love it, but love his Carolina Panthers. And I don't know. I don't have issues with Carolina Panthers fans. I don't. I mean, even for the most part, I ain't got no problem with no Tampa Bay fans because we all know for the most part, none of them are real. They just riding a wave right now. And then eventually, like, once this little phase that they got going, once that's over and done with, and we probably ain't gonna see them no more unless they find themselves a quarterback, which we know it was hard for them to find Brady, so might be hard for them to find something else. So that's just the way it goes, folks. That's just the way it is. He do look like him. I'm telling you, man, he look just like him. He look just like him. I'm gonna read two more and then we're gonna get up out of here. It says the Bucs used to be my least hated NFC South team, but now it's the Panthers. Look, there wasn't nothing to hate on the Bucs about. And even like even with the Bucs now, I don't hate the Bucs. Like, I don't hate the Buccaneers. Like, the Buccaneers are irrelevant to me. Like, I just feel like what they're doing right now is not sustainable success. Right? I still feel like the team that I just despise are the Falcons. Like, I don't dislike the Carolina Panthers like that. If they play the Saints, I want them to lose. And with the Bucs, like, the Bucs are like the Bucs are like your little brother who grows a couple inches and finally can beat you in basketball, right? But for the most part, they're not going to beat you all the time, right? It's kind of like that. Like, that's just the way that I feel about the Bucs. It's the little brother that got a little taller and learned how to shoot a little jump shot. And all of a sudden, like, he won a couple games. Now he just feel like he the best on the court, but he's not. We all know he's not. But hey, you know what I'm saying? He needs that confidence. And TJ, I could watch the hardcore Holly Bishop Bowinkle and bad Dennis Allen clips on a loop, I promise. Well, look, man, those are some classic loops right there. We're gonna definitely keep them around, and when they necessary, we're gonna pull them out. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna pull them out, man, just for entertainment purposes. But thank you all so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. Really do appreciate it. Shouts out to everybody here. Shouts out to everybody at home, at work, wherever you are. Shouts out to my mom and my family. I know they're listening to this right now as they're traveling back home. Had a good holiday weekend, man. My family came down, visit me in South Carolina, me, my wife in Paxton. Had a good time, man. We sat around, we joked, we did karaoke, we sung Christmas songs, we ate, and we fellowshiped, man. And it was great. It was one of my first times actually hosting my family since we actually got our house in Myrtle Beach. So it was great to actually have them there, man, and everybody able just to be under one roof, man. It made it feel good. And, I'm just wishing they have safe travels. And, I love each and every one of them, and, the holiday season is always great, man, because, those are some of the times where no matter where you are, you finally can get together with your family. And we all know how the world has been over the last couple of years. So it's been hard for families to being able to get together, but this is one of the years where people were able to travel a little bit more and feel a little bit more confident about their travels. And, you'll be able to spend some time with your family. And I hope that you all had a great holiday as well. As we look forward to the new year, as we look forward to this Week 17 game, of course, the State of the Saints podcast will have the coverage for you. We'll be breaking down the Saints Week 17 matchup versus the Philadelphia Eagles. And we'll be talking about some of the key storylines heading into that game. A lot of things need to happen for the Saints to keep their playoff positioning. We'll talk about that a little bit more as the weeks go on, and also talk about some of the other NFC South teams and what does the Tampa Bay Buccaneers victory mean for them when it comes to scenarios. Keep it locked right here to the State of the Saints podcast. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. We're very, very close to 10,000 subscribers, man. So if you have not subscribed, please help us in order for us to get to 10,000. Also, previous episodes that are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor FM. Follow the State of the Saints podcast on Facebook. All you have to do is go to facebook.com, search The State of the Saints Podcast, and follow me on Twitter at TJAY Jones 8. Till next time, all I got to say is, who that?